it's bizarre to think, but this time last year I was telling you when it was all going to kick off, and from the articles we read, they really did score a lot of the key points. And here we have now another article from the same person we read from last year predicting potential outcomes, what might happen this year. We now have basically saying what's going on in potentially the first 3 months of next year. So, Labour and Tory rebels plot parliamentary ambush to halt no-deal Brexit in New Year. A string of New Year parliamentary ambushes is being planned by Labour and Tory MPs in a last-ditch effort to avoid a no-deal Brexit, HuffPost has learned. A series of rolling contempt motions plus multiple killer amendments to key Brexit legislations are being drafted in response to Theresa May's new £4 billion preparations for the UK to leave the EU without an agreement. The government's finance bill, which enacts the budget and sets taxes for the coming year, could even be blocked, as well as estimates for Whitehall spending. In one example, the tactics Labour's Yvette Cooper and Hilary Benn teamed up with Tories Nicky Morgan and Oliver Lewitt on Thursday to table an amendment to the finance bill. The amendment prevents the government from changing taxes in the event of a no-deal scenario without Parliament's explicit consent. Amid continued opposition to the Prime Minister's plans, ministers are also seeking to cancel the MP's February skiing week recess in oh dear. MP's February skiing week recess in a bid to give extra time for all the new laws and regulations needed in time for exit day on March of 29th. Meanwhile, hardline Brexiteer MPs are backing no deal, are determined to hold up proceedings until after the February 21st, the latest possible date on which Parliament could set in motion any general election held before Brexit. The Cabinet this week ramped up no-deal contingency planning across Whitehall, while the EU revealed on Wednesday that its own last-resort proposals, including severe restrictions on transport, travel and other rights. Labour and several anti-Brexit Tory backbenchers are determined to use every possible parliamentary procedure to avoid the UK crashing out of the UK next spring. If May's plans are defeated in the meaningful vote planned for the week of January the 14th, Commons leader Angela Leadsom confirmed on Thursday that the meaningful vote could be followed by a series of alternative motions, referring to her new amendment to the finance bill, which could be heard the second day the Commons returns on January the 8th. Cooper said it would show that the cross-party opposition to a no-deal Brexit. It risks our economy and the security from no deal are far too high, and it would be irresponsible to allow it to happen. I do not believe Parliament would support a no deal, and ministers should rule it out now. But if the government won't rule it out, then Parliament needs to find opportunities to stop the country reaching the cliff edge by accident. Starting with the finance bill in the first week back, then looking at every other legislative opportunity too. That is why we have tabled this amendment with cross-party support. Following the fail of May's deal, MPs are putting a series of indicative votes to find a Commons majority on issues as extending Article 50, holding a new referendum and avoiding a no deal. Should number 10 try to ignore the non-binding votes, a rolling series of contempt of Parliament motions could be held to force May and her ministers to comply. Crucially, once any indicative vote is passed by a majority, the government insiders believe Commons Speaker John Bercow would use his discretion to view those votes to allow a raft of amendments that would normally be considered in scope of various Brexit bills. The rebel MPs will hijack the bills which are needed for Brexit, with or without May's deal, and with amendments aimed at achieving a 2-month extension of Article 50, a revocation of Article 50, or even a second referendum. Ministers are braced for a series of Brexit bills to be hit by the rearguard action. As well as the main EU withdrawal bill, others would be the new Immigration and Social Security Coordination Bill due to be published on Thursday, as well as the Trade Bill, Fisheries Bill and the Healthcare, the International Arrangements Bill. But the Finance Bill, which has yet to have its report stage, could also be targeted by MPs who want to cause maximum disruption for the government. One Whitehall source confirmed. Senior government figures confirmed that they were braced for guerrilla tactics against no deal, but believe ministers will be powerless to resist the political wishes of Parliament. Some insiders even believe the planned obstruction could help May focus the minds of her rebellious Brexiteers backbenchers. If we faced a series of rolling contempt motions, we would have little choice to bring forward legislation. That is why the message to the Tory Brexiteers is that if you don't back the PM's deal, you are really going to end up with no Brexit at all, or at least nothing that looks like Brexit, one source said. We cannot pull these bills of our own accord. They are needed. So there is a real risk of extension of Article 50 or a second referendum, neither which the Brexiteers want. Although Labour MPs and its shadow cabinet are divided on opinions such as a second referendum, almost all of them are united behind guerrilla tactics, though, to stop a no deal. Experts in constitutionary and parliamentary procedure believe that there are several credible ways for MPs to deter or block a no-deal outcome. Ruth Fox, the director of the Hansard Society, said that even if May got her deal passed on a meaningful vote, the EU withdrawal agreement bill is going to take up an awful lot of time. There is still a number of other Brexit bills that have got to be put on the statute book by March, and also on top of all that, we've got to deal with the statutory instruments, regulations that needed to be dealt with by the exit day to amend the existing statute book and to prepare for life outside the EU. And at the moment, the government has only brought forward about a third of those. Maddie Thunnock-Jack of the Institute for the Government told HuffPost that the trade bill currently held up in the House of Lords was definitely in the firing line, because it was subject to a major attempt this summer to force ministers to adopt a European Economic Area model for Brexit. The Finance Bill has yet to have its remaining stages completed in the Commons, and MPs could vote against its third reading to effectively stop the government from levying income and corporation tax for the incoming year. I do think the Finance Bill is also a target. It's a more extreme target. It really will be shots fired by MPs if they try that, she said. You can still try to hold the government hostage in terms of how much money they will have access to. MPs could also take the rare step of voting against so-called supplementary estimates, which are introduced to Parliament to approve amending spending in Whitehall departments. The challenge is harder to direct the government to do something, though, she said. I think the problem, firstly, is that you need to find a majority for an alternative to a no deal. If there is no majority for something else, then we are looking at no deal. Unless we can find that, we haven't got a hope in hell. Meanwhile, ministers are actively discussing requiring MPs to sit on Fridays or even possibly Saturdays, as well as cancelling the planned February recess to get the legislation through on time. In the House of Lords, the February break is known as many as a skiing week, as peers jet off to the slopes around Europe. One senior Tory MP joked, "I am just pleased my own skiing holiday is booked for earlier than February." Ruth Fox said that one of the issues the government is going to have to confront very quickly is that they are going to do what they're going to do about the February recess. They are due to go into the recess for about 2 weeks. I just cannot see how that's possible. The official PM spokesman concluded that the Brexit deal relied on legislation for implementation. There are a number of stages in which the deal has gone through in order for it to be ratified, certainly. The UK Parliament is one, but following on from that, we also have to pass a withdrawal agreement bill, and also the European Parliament also has to ratify this deal. There are key bits of legislation which will be working to get through the House of Commons by exit day, and the number of bills that we need to get through in case of a no-deal scenario. Labour's own Brexit policy is to call for a general election, and if it is rejected, to explore options, including a campaign for a second referendum. The party is expected to try and force a no-confidence vote in the government sometime in January, although it may not want to do that after the indicative votes are completed. The Handsworth Society has told the HuffPost that with 25 working days needed as notice for an election, the last date Parliament could dissolve before an election before Brexit is Thursday, February the 21st. That would allow for an election on Thursday, March the 28th, just before the exit day in legislation. Shadow Home Secretary Diane Abbott told BBC Radio 4 on Wednesday, "We want to work in Parliament first and foremost to block off the prospect of a no-deal Brexit." So there you have it. There's a lot of people saying that there is not a majority in Parliament for a no-deal, and that will not happen. I fully believe that if we are staring a no-deal in the face, Parliament will not allow it and vote to either extend or even just kill off Article 50 altogether. That is what I will believe will happen, because there is no way MPs, knowing the chaos that will ensue from a no-deal Brexit and what will happen to the United Kingdom as a country in terms of its GDP, economy and potential job losses, there is no way MPs will do it. They will not risk that at all. They will not do it.